My hot December body, I go show una pepper.
Linda sat beside her window in Toronto watching snow fall like pieces of silence. 32. Stable job. Clean apartment. A life that looked perfect from the outside. But inside, she felt empty. She had everything except the one thing she prayed for, a man who would love her, choose her, and call her wife. Every December reminded her of what she didn't have. Her friends in Nigeria posted pictures of hourglass bodies and perfect curves. Surgeries reshaped their waist, hips, and leaves. They looked confident. They looked wanted. They looked happy. Meanwhile, she felt invisible. She always told herself she didn't need surgery because God blessed her with a naturally beautiful shape. But each time she saw Kemi in Abuja or Ronk in Lagos flaunting their new curves and getting attention, even from men who had nothing to offer, her heart sank. She began to believe her body was the problem. She believed she was not enough, and the thought ate her slowly. One cold November morning, everything broke. She booked a flight to Lagos, telling her coworkers she needed sunlight. But deep down she knew the truth. She was going for a BBL and liposuction, hoping for the body that would attract the kind of love she dreamed of, especially from the December men flying in from abroad. When she landed, Lagos hit her with heat and music. Her friends welcomed her, teasing her for waiting so long. They told her men now noticed only perfect bodies. Linda laughed, but inside, fear and hope wrestled. The clinic in Lekki looked like heaven on the outside, glass doors, white walls, smiling nurses. The doctor spoke softly, confidently. He promised she would look like a goddess. She nodded, even as her stomach twisted. The surgery took hours. She woke up in pain, heavy and strange, but when the bandages came off, her friends screamed. Tiny waist. Round hips. Flat stomach. December came with madness, Ikoyi parties, Elash beaches, clubs filled with men from the US and UK. They noticed her instantly. They praised her. Bought her drinks. Called her beautiful. Held her waist like it was gold. She thought love had finally found her. But the men vanished after a night. Some blocked her. Some pretended not to know her in public. Some used her. Her confidence cracked. She felt foolish. The dream she paid for was becoming a nightmare. Her friends whispered behind her back. They told her even women with bigger bodies hadn't married, so why did she believe she'd find a husband in one December? Lagos became suffocating. Linda ran to Abuja, hoping for calmer men and a fresh start. And then she met Chike. Gentle voice. Expensive watch. Sweet words. He didn't chase her body, he listened. Treated her like a queen. She fell quickly, imagining weddings, vows, children. But she didn't know he already had a family, and darker secrets. Slowly, he changed. Disappeared often. Asked unsettling questions about trust. Then one night he invited her to a lodge outside town, saying they needed to talk about the future. She dressed beautifully, full of hope. She even called her mother to prepare for wedding bells. The moment she entered the lodge, something felt wrong: darkness, strange men, cold silence. Chike looked different. His eyes were empty. He blocked the door when she tried to leave. That was when it hit her: she was not there for love. She was there for something evil. She ran into the night, into bushes, onto the road, until a taxi stopped for her. She cried the whole way home. She thought the nightmare was over. It wasn't. Weeks passed. Fear swallowed her. She barely left the house. But on a Sunday, she forced herself to attend a friend's birthday party. People stared at her curves. She was the center of attention again. Sandra, her friend, hugged her tightly, happy she came out after everything. While they danced, Sandra's cousin, Saint, freshly arrived from America, whispered that he liked Linda. They started talking, and slowly, love grew. Real love. Gentle love. Love that didn't stare at her hips first. Linda was scared at first, afraid Sandra would tell him about her past. But Sandra got so busy she forgot. Days turned into weeks, and their bond became unbreakable. Finally, Linda whispered, "God has done it." Saint proposed. Their wedding was beautiful, the kind of wedding that made families proud and silenced enemies. But after the celebration came the storm. Linda tried to conceive. Nothing happened. They checked everything. And one afternoon the doctor walked in with a truth that shattered her world. Her womb had been damaged. Her surgery, the same one that promised her a new life, had silently stolen her ability to have children. The clinic that beautifies also harvested organs. She was one of their victims. Her body began to change. Her hips shifted. Her stomach hardened. The pain was unbearable. The Abuja clinic told her it was normal and took her in for a correction. But the second surgery destroyed her body even more. Dark patches. Swollen belly. Uneven hips. She could barely walk. Couldn't sit properly. Her confidence evaporated. Her friends stopped checking on her. They were busy enjoying December again. No one wanted sadness to spoil their vibe. Days before Christmas, Linda lay alone on a hospital bed, fireworks echoing through the city. She touched the bandages on her waist and cried, not just from pain, but from realization. She had changed her body for love. For approval, for acceptance. But none of it filled the emptiness she carried. On Christmas Eve, she opened her hospital window. Laughter echoed outside. Couples held hands. Children danced. The world moved forward without her. For the first time in her life, she finally breathed deeply. She whispered, "This is not the end." She promised herself healing. She promised herself a new beginning. Not for men, not for society, but for herself. December took everything from her. But it also opened her eyes. And as fireworks lit up the Abuja sky one more time, Linda made a quiet promise. She would rebuild. She would rise. She would become whole again. And that was the beginning of her true journey. January came quietly. Unlike the noise of December, January arrived with soft mornings and long silences. Linda remained in the private ward for another week, her body still swollen, her mind still healing from everything she had survived. Saint visited every day. He brought fruit, flowers, books she didn't read, food she barely touched. But what touched her the most was the way he held her hand and said nothing. With pity, no judgment, and presence. One evening, while the sky outside turned orange, he sat beside her and whispered, "Linda, you're not alone. Not today, not ever." She looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time since the nightmare began, she didn't feel broken. But there was guilt. A heavy one. Her voice cracked. "Saint, you married a woman who can't give you children." He squeezed her hand. "I married you. Not your womb." She wanted to believe him. She wanted to fall into that comfort. But pain and shame had built walls around her heart. When Linda finally left the hospital, the world felt too bright, too loud. People stared, some out of curiosity, some out of judgment. Her gait was slow, her belly still swollen from the botched correction. Her once perfect curves were now uneven. Sandra came the next morning, tears in her eyes when she saw Linda's body. "Linda, why didn't you call me earlier?" "Because," Linda whispered, "I didn't want to be a burden." Sandra hugged her tightly. "You saved yourself from evil men, you'll survive this too." For the first time in a long time, Linda let herself be held. 2 weeks later, Linda received a phone call from an unknown number. Madam Linda. This is Inspector Bola from the Federal Criminal Investigation Department. Her heart skipped. We have your statement from your husband concerning the clinic, the officer said. You are not the only victim. We need your testimony. Linda froze. Talking meant reopening wounds. Talking meant reliving the surgery she never wanted to remember. Can I think about it? She asked. Yes. But madam, your story may save many women. That night, Linda couldn't sleep. She remembered the cold clinic lights. The doctor's empty smile. The pain. The lies. The women in the waiting room, all hoping for a miracle. Her hands trembled as she dialed the inspector back. I'll talk, she whispered. The investigation opened doors that had long been shut. Other women came forward, some not okay, some disabled, some grieving. Linda sat among them in a small conference room in Abuja, listening to stories worse than hers. One woman had lost a kidney. Another was battling chronic infection. A third had been abandoned by her husband. Their pain connected them like sisters. For the first time, Linda didn't feel alone. Her pain had a purpose. And when it was her turn to speak, her voice shook, but it did not break. One night, Saint sat at the edge of their bed, rubbing his hands nervously. Linda, I need to ask you something. She looked up, surprised by his tone. All this, the investigation, the media, the police, he paused. Are you sure you're ready? She nodded slowly. I've been quiet my whole life. Look where silence brought me. Saint exhaled. I just don't want you to get hurt again. She took his hand. I won't. Not this time. But deep down, she knew the journey ahead wouldn't be easy. Months passed. Her body still carried scars, uneven hips, dark patches, a stomach that no longer obeyed her. But her spirit was beginning to rise. She started physiotherapy. She joined a support group for women recovering from surgery trauma. She began volunteering at a women's center. And slowly, painfully, beautifully, Linda began to feel like herself again. Linda's throat tightened. For the first time, she saw the answer to the question that haunted her. Why me? Why did I survive when others didn't? Maybe, so she could stop another woman from repeating her mistake. Maybe December didn't break her. Maybe it rebirthed her. Late one evening, during a routine checkup, the doctor frowned at Linda's chart. Your hormones are returning to normal, he murmured. And these scans, they're unusual. Linda stiffened. Is something wrong? The doctor slowly shook his head. No. In fact, this is unexpected. Linda, your womb is damaged, yes, but it's not dead. There is a small window of possibility. Her heart stopped. Possibility for what? The doctor lifted his eyes and said the words she had stopped dreaming about. There is a chance, the small one, but a real chance, that you may be able to conceive. Linda's breath caught in her throat. For a moment the world disappeared, the pain, the scars, the mistakes, the December chaos. Hope, fragile, trembling, terrifying, bloomed inside her. She closed her eyes and whispered, God, is this you? And that was when Linda's true story began. Not of a December body, but of a December miracle. The moment the doctor said the words, there is a chance you may conceive, Linda felt as if the earth shifted beneath her feet. She left the hospital in silence, too afraid to hope, too shocked to breathe. The Abuja sky was purple, the evening breeze warm against her skin. She held her abdomen gently, as if a future she once buried was suddenly waking up again. When she got home, Saint was in the living room, typing on his laptop. He looked up, saw her expression, and stood instantly. Baby, what happened? What did the doctor say? Her voice cracked. Saint, he said, there's a chance I can still get pregnant. Saint froze. The laptop slipped from his hands and fell on the sofa. He walked toward her slowly, like someone approaching a miracle he didn't want to scare away. A chance, he whispered. She nodded, tears filling her eyes. A real one. He pulled her into his chest, his arms trembling around her. Linda felt his heartbeat, fast, grateful, disbelieving. We'll take it one day at a time, he said. We won't rush. But Linda, this is God. She nodded into his shirt and sobbed. Not from pain, not from fear. But from hope being reborn. 3 months later, Linda stood in the bathroom staring at a small test strip in her hand. She blinked, looked again, her hand shook violently, pointing 2 lines. 2 bold, undeniable, screaming lines, positive. Her breath caught. Her knees gave way. She sat on the cold floor and covered her mouth as tears poured down her face. Saint burst into the room at the sound of her crying. Linda. What's wrong? She couldn't speak. She simply held up the test. Saint stared, his lips parted. Then he fell to his knees, wrapped his arms tightly around her, and cried openly, deep, heavy tears that came from his soul. You're carrying our child, he whispered. Our own child. They stayed on the bathroom floor for minutes, holding each other, letting the miracle wash over them. News of her survival, her testimony, and now her pregnancy spread quietly among her old Abuja friends and even back in Lagos. Some congratulated her. Some asked for her forgiveness. Some whispered that it was impossible. After what she went through. Her womb was damaged. How? Maybe it's adoption, maybe it's lie. But Linda ignored all of them. She kept her peace, she protected her joy. The police investigation intensified that same month. The clinic was finally shut down. The doctor was arrested trying to flee the country. Several nurses confessed. Rings were uncovered. Linda's recorded testimony became a key piece of evidence. Women she never met sent her messages. You saved me. Your story opened my eyes. You saved my daughter. I cancelled my surgery because of you. For the first time, Linda understood. Her pain had a purpose. 9 months later, on a warm September afternoon, Linda went into labor. It wasn't easy. Her body carried scars. Her womb had been weakened. The doctors watched her closely. But she fought. She pushed with everything inside her, every wound, every betrayal. Every December that broke her, and then, a cry. Sharp, loud, alive, her baby, her miracle. The nurse laid a tiny, warm body on her chest. A girl. Small, perfect, beautiful. Alive against every medical prediction. Saint kissed Linda's forehead with tears running down his cheeks. My wife, you did it. You did it. Linda stared at the baby, her heart stretching painfully with love. Her name, she whispered, will be Misoma. God's goodness. Saint nodded, still overwhelmed. It fits her. Because she is proof God still writes stories. Months later, Linda sat by her window with Misoma wrapped against her chest. Abuja's evening sun washed the room in gold. She watched mothers playing with their children outside. She watched couples walking hand in hand. She watched life happen, no longer without her, but with her right in the center of it. Her scars were still there. Her hips were still uneven. Her stomach still carried reminders of the surgeries. But Linda no longer hid them. They were proof of survival. Proof of strength. Proof that she lived. Her December body had almost destroyed her. But her December miracle rebuilt her. She leaned down and kissed her daughter's tiny forehead. This, she whispered, is the body that mattered all along. Not the body that won attention. Not the body shaped by doctors. Not the body built for December men. But the body that carried a child she was never supposed to have, the body that survived. The body that healed, the body that lived. And as the final light of evening touched her face, Linda smiled with a peace she had never felt in her entire 32 years. Her true story didn't end in December. It began there. Months later, Linda sat quietly in her living room, her newborn daughter sleeping gently on her chest. After everything she survived, the surgeries, the pain, the betrayal, the fear, life had finally shown her mercy. The doctors once said her womb was damaged. But God wrote another ending. She conceived, she carried the pregnancy. She gave birth safely. Saint kissed her forehead as he watched their baby sleep. "You made it," he whispered. Linda smiled, touching her daughter's tiny fingers. "I didn't just make it," she said softly. "I became whole again." And that was the end of her December story. Not a story of the body she changed, but the miracle she never expected. Thank you so much to all my lovely and beautiful subscribers and my returning viewers. I so much appreciate your love and support. Your likes, your encouragement and your comments keeps this channel growing. If you are new here, please subscribe to my channel and turn on post notifications because you don't want to miss the next story. God bless you all. I love you all.